I met a Gypsy.
It's incredible, the thing that you got to be able to overcome, right? And then just processing, right? I think that's another key to, being successful. These guys who naturally can process things like quickly, I mean, it's a huge benefit, If you take a split second to try and process, you're either too slow, or you crashed, or you got landed on, or you hit the lap rider or the guy in front of you. It's all because you pause for a second.
So who are the best guys at processing?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear the guys who typically go the fastest, I think, are most of the time the best at processing. Obviously Jett stands out in my mind. He makes it, when he looks like he's not going fast and it's just unbelievable, he's processing. His brain is picking all this stuff up and processing it at such a earlier or faster rate to where he can slow himself down, still go the speed, but it's a lot less effort, And then how many times have you been at a track or been at a race, and if you were to just watch this one guy, he looks like he's going so fast, and then you look on where he's at on the board and you're like, oh, 20th. But if he was just the only one out there, you'd be like, then nobody can go faster. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But then you get a guy like Jett or someone who processes really, really good, not to mention they're good on the motorcycle and can handle that processing, and then they look like they're going slow. But then you put them on a clock or you look on the board and you're like, oh, they're on the top. Man, that looked easy. I remember when last year at Hangtown, Casey Cochran, rookie, riding for us and just getting his feet wet, trying to learn, and he'd never been to Hangtown before, which it's really odd to say because most of these guys who turned pro have been to Hangtown.
Travel.
They've done a
Loretta's,
area or regional there. He's from the East Coast, so he had never ridden there. And so you're thinking about that, and you're like, all right, how do we get this guy on this track early so he at least knows it a little bit like everybody else? Well, a lot of times that doesn't work out. You can't pull it off. And he goes there, and he qualified P1 as a rookie at his second pro national. And his lap, I remember saying to him, I'm like, you didn't even look like you were going fast. And he was like, it felt easy. Most of the time when you find that, that's what the answer is. Oh, it felt easy. I didn't feel sketchy. I didn't feel anything. Most of the time when someone goes, dude, I was so sketchy, I felt it was gnarly at that speed. They're usually not going that fast. That's all processing.
Because they're struggling to process it. It's coming at them quicker. And you think that's just purely like a genetic thing?
I think it's partly that. I think it's partly that, and I think that it has to do with what you've done your whole life, from sports to racing. And, I'm sure there's ways that you could tap into processing quicker. Because I think we've all noticed, you might be sick, a little bit sick, say you got a cold or something, and you want to go ride your motorcycle, and your brain's just not processing quick enough. So everything feels like it's happening at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you're not even going the speed that you normally go. So that's a little offset, right? Or you've had a concussion, and you're trying to come back and ride, and your brain won't process it. So that's all part of it. But I think that there's definitely a God-given gift of being able to process quicker. You look at F1 drivers, you couldn't just throw anybody into a training simulator and then eventually put them in the car and then have any success, because their processing would get better, but these people have trained their whole lives to process quicker.
Yeah.
So
and that's what, when I asked Danny Rick about it, because that's the example. It was after Baku, and I'm just like, bro, can you actually believe that you can do that? When you watch, if you look at an onboard quali lap of that track, and it's just the craziest street circuit, so close to the walls, and he's just like, no, honestly, I can't. If you when you tell me that's me, that seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how though? He's like, dude, you just do it your whole life, and your brain gets used to it. Yeah. And then he's like, when you go off season, you do the full off season, and you come back and you do the first test. And the first day, you're just white knuckling, holy shit. And then it just goes away. Yeah. Your brain's just back up to speed.
It's amazing. It really, really is amazing. And you ask him about motocross, supercross, he probably thinks it's
Craziest
insane.
Thing ever, yeah.
Right? And I look at him and go, holy, that's crazy. Or a big wave surfer, like, or, you know, anyone who's good at their sport. Like, it's just like, I try to explain, they're like, how are you okay with, like, you know, hitting that jump and being, you know, 50 feet in the air and not landing exactly where you want. And it's just repetitive. You just get used to it. And it's just like breathing, you know? You got to teach people, pull in the clutch, hit the rear brake in the air. Like, you don't think about that anymore. You just do it when it's necessary.
That's one of the things that, like, this conversation is just fascinating to me because I'm on this side of the fence of, like, I'm never going to be that good. And I'm never, like, so it's very clear to me as a person that's, like, right in the middle. Like, probably a little bit better than just an average Joe that's off the street.
Yeah.
Light years away from a pro, but I can understand what they're going through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, like, that, so there has to be, well, this is the question I wonder, is, like, is it that I didn't spend enough time from a young age, like, developing that to get it? Or is it just there was a certain, like, whatever frequency that my brain's at is, like, just doesn't process that fast enough? And then you didn't start until you were 15, which is, like, essentially when I started racing, realistically. Like, rode a bit as a kid.
Yeah,
weren't
same
allowed to have bikes, weren't allowed to race, played football, played all the other sports. When I got a job, bought my own bike, that's when I started because I was actually paying for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it A, you didn't have enough talent, so no matter what you did, you would never be able to make it, or it's that you started too late, didn't spend enough time developing that processing power, and then you look at a guy like James Stewart, just spent his whole life every single day, Ricky Carmichael, lived in a trailer, rode every single day. Like, is that what it takes? Like, what is the mix of that, you know?
I mean, it's a great question, and I don't think there's a clear answer because it's
just
so
that mix
many
between
different
nature and nurture, right?
Yeah, so many different things that play into it, right? You know, like, you know, from talent, opportunities, decisions, injuries, you know, parents being able to afford to go do it or put you in a position where you can excel. You know,
Parents,
I mean, there's
even having the want.
Yeah. I mean, like, do I really want to watch my kid go through all these injuries and things like that come with the territory? It's just so much that goes into it. There's no way to pinpoint one thing, but I don't like what you mentioned about never have a chance, right? Because I think everybody, given the right decisions along the way, circumstances, they can get there. You know, again, maybe they're not X Factor champion or whatever, but if everything kind of falls the right ways along the way, you know, purposely or sometimes, you know, subconsciously, I think anybody can do it. I feel like that's the only way I was able to do it.
Well, you're kind of the perfect example. Obviously, again, in a time that wasn't as thick, like the pool wasn't as deep, like the base of the pyramid's not as wide, essentially, right?
Yep.
But yeah, you came in 15, late, and just made it happen. Like a 16-year pro career, won a championship, won a 450 or 250 Supercross race. So it's like that. It is obviously possible, at least in that time, to be that guy.
Yeah, no, it is. I just think that, you know, you have to have the attitude of I can do anything, you know, given the right circumstances and the work ethic and the willingness to sacrifice, you know, both good and bad ways, right?
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.